Good evening, everyone. This is Arcacia with Peoria Area Christian Home Educators, and I'm here tonight with our family spotlight for the month of August. We're excited to have the Kelly family with us tonight, and we're going to introduce them here in a moment. But before we do that, I want to tell you guys what the family spotlight is. So each month we interview a fellow homeschooling family and get to know them a little bit, get to know their homeschooling journey, what works for them, what hasn't worked for them, what excites them about homeschooling, all those lovely little goodies. And we kind of do this to bring community to our homeschooling community. And we would love to get to know all of our homeschooling families. So if this is an idea that you guys like and you would like to be interviewed yourselves, you can email Patch or you can hook us up on Facebook there and we can get connected that way too. And let us know. And we would love to sit down with you guys, your family, and get to know your family. And you guys could become a family feature spotlight. In the meantime, we have the Kelly family. Brian and Kim Kelly, welcome. It's glad to have you guys here tonight.
Hi, thanks. Good to be here.
So thank you guys for sitting down here and doing this with us. And so first of all, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about your family?
Sure. Of course, I'm Brian, and this is my wife, Kim. We've been married for 22 years this weekend. Hurrah. And I pastor a small church in Mendota, Illinois. But we grew up out east. My wife grew up near Pittsburgh. I grew up in Canton, Ohio. We've been out here in Mendota for about 7 years now. And, well, we've been homeschooling, but we'll tell you about that here in a little bit. So we have 7 kids. We're going to have them just come in real quick and say hi. So here they come.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Ethan, and I am 21 years old. I graduated in the year 2018.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I'm 19 and I graduated in 2020.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I'm 17 and I graduated this previous school year.
Hi, my name is Timothy. I am 16 and I'm still doing school.
Hi, my name is Abby. I'm 15 and I'm still doing school as well.
Hi, I'm Peter, and I'm still doing school too.
And you're?
How old are you?
11.
11.
Not graduated yet.
All right. For those of you that were counting, that was only 6, and the 3-year-old ran off.
And refuses to come back.
So.
Totally understand that. I also have a Timothy myself, so it's great seeing you guys' family there.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us what prompted the idea of homeschooling for you guys?
Oh boy. I grew up in an unsaved home, and so it was all public school for us, and I didn't even encounter the idea of homeschooling until I was studying for ministry at Appalachian Bible College and knew a couple of homeschoolers there, and the idea was just kind of, well, okay, that's interesting, but not a whole lot about it. But as we started raising our own kids, it was the Lord gradually laying on us more and more an idea that this is our responsibility and we want to own it. And so it came to a climax at one point. I'm going to let my wife tell about that part.
Yeah, I was raised in public and Christian schools, and back in the day when very few homeschooled. So the only homeschoolers I knew were weird, and I just decided that homeschooling was awful and you were ruining your children. And I said the order I would school my children would be actually public school first, Christian school second, and homeschool third, if ever. And we had the Lord put us in a church surrounded by homeschoolers, which he tends to do when you need something slammed in your face. And we saw, okay, they're not weird. They're actually pretty cool families. And so we had that kind of building in our hearts, but I was still opposed. So we put our kids in public school, in the local public school, and my oldest, Ethan, was in 3rd grade and had been there about 2 days and got a note from the teacher that she sent out to everyone. And it said, if you do not do your homework the night before, your parents will have to come in and tell me why, and then you will get no recess. And I don't know what it was about that note, but that's what the Lord used in our lives to say, no, these are my children. And I need to be doing this. I am the one that's in charge and the one that answers to God for what we were doing. And so from there, 14 years ago, and here we are today, homeschooling, loving it, would tell anybody it's the absolute best and only way to school. And I love it with all my heart.
It's
That was
amazing
kind of the
how,
proverbial straw that broke the camel's back. It was like,
yeah.
it sort of pushed us over the edge to say, okay, we can do this. And it was a fun start, but that's kind of what got us. We really wanted to own that privilege and responsibility of not just educating our kids, but all around training them for life and faith in Christ and everything.
Discipleship is very important, and it's amazing how
Absolutely.
God can kind of turn things around, which things that weren't on your radar before all of a sudden becomes blaring objects on the radar.
Yeah.
And you're like, why didn't I think of this all along?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us, how did you guys get started? I mean, you guys decided that homeschooling is a choice for you guys. You guys wanted to go ahead and do it. How did you guys go and get started with homeschooling? Because actually we're getting a lot of those questions right now with new homeschoolers.
Oh.
The first question is how do we get started?
Okay.
Well, we were in Pennsylvania, so the process is a little different than it is here in Illinois with the laws and things. But we got that note. We talked about it that night, and we both said, "Yeah, I think we can do this." And so I think he went to school finished out that week, but the next week we pulled him out. So it was a really quick transition from no, we're not homeschooling to they're at our house and we're schooling them. And so we sent in the letter that needed to be sent and started making sure all of the technical aspects and legalities and things were filled out. But I think like a lot of homeschoolers not knowing quite what we were doing at first, we tried to mimic the public school as much as we could. So, I mean, we did the Pledge of Allegiance in the morning and we had them, what day of the week is it? And all those kinds of grade school sorts of things they were doing, which I'm not saying they were bad, but it's all we knew how to do at that point. And that went on just for a little while, but we immediately started talking to some of those homeschooling families in our church to figure out what to do. And I think that's where she's going to explain.
Yeah, our way of getting started was one homeschooling mom that had several kids, I think 6. She allowed me to come to her house, and I sat down, notebook and paper, pen, and wrote everything. And I said, so how do you do this? And she said, and I wrote it. And I said, how do you do this? And she said, and I wrote it. And I asked everything, like, what time do you get started? What do you do with sick days? What curriculum are you using? I don't even understand how you decide how many pages a day they do. I mean, I didn't get anything. And her name was Kristen, and she sat with me for hours and just walked me through everything. And so our first year looked like Kristen's family's year. We just she did, but it was what I needed. It was the start we needed, and that was a really good start to have somebody come alongside me and just give me the boost I needed. And okay, you can do this at home, and here's other people doing it, and here's how.
So yeah, really, current homeschooling families are probably the best resource that new homeschoolers have got. Find some of those people and talk to them and ask them questions.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. Patch is definitely here to answer those questions also. And it's great to have those mentors come along with you and kind of teach you and guide you and be the shoulder to cry on, because, you're going to have those days where you want to cry. You might have those days where you want to cry all day long.
I had one day I was working contracting at the time while I was in seminary, and I came home and she met me at the door and took the car keys out of my hand and said, "I will be back." And she walked out. So that was one of our early days. That must not have gone well today.
Definitely. And giving ourselves grace when things don't go well, and understanding that, we're going to have those moments where things don't go ideally, where kids are, climbing up the walls and mom's climbing out the door. And you realize that, that those make teaching moments too. And that our children also need to realize that, not everything is going to be well all the time, and that we need to be relying on God's grace during those times too. So those are definitely some things along the lines that our family has learned with homeschooling.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So why don't you guys tell me, I haven't asked this question with any of our other families, and I just thought about it, this past week. I thought this is an awesome question. So what has been one thing that you guys have been blessed with homeschooling that would not have been possible if you chose traditional school with your kids?
Not even a question, time with the kids.
Mm.
We absolutely have loved having our kids home with us all the time. The teaching side of things at times can get a little hairy, but we enjoy having our children with us. God has really proved faithful to the promise that he gave us that children are a heritage from the Lord, and blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. So having them around has just been a delight. When we had all little kids, and we had our kids in pretty rapid succession, like a lot of homeschoolers, but we'd have people come up to us and say, "Oh, enjoy them while they're young, because then they're going to become teenagers someday." And we enjoyed them when they were little kids and having them around. And now that they're teenagers, we say, "This is fantastic. We love having them around."
Mm-hmm.
And it's now that they're getting to the point where some of them are starting to think about moving on and leaving, it's a little hard, but I think that time with the kids has been such a blessing for us and just made life full and rich and enjoyable all around.
Yes, definitely. I can definitely attest to that too. I can remember early on when me and my husband started having kids, the whole radar of staying at home was not on my radar. The whole radar of homeschooling wasn't on the radar. And we had our first one, and she wasn't even a couple weeks old. And I had an extended maternity leave with her. And then it's time for me to start thinking about going back to work. And I can remember calling him the first day of work in tears saying, "I can't do this. I can't have somebody else raise my child." And this is when she was a little bitty baby. when I was feeling this way. I think God was preparing my heart at that time, because then when she turns 5, we're preparing to put her in school. And I'm thinking that, we just need to, because everybody else does it. That's what you do. You put your kids in public school,
Yep.
and she's turning 5. So I was filling out the registration, and my husband said to me, "I thought we were going to homeschool." We had to have a conversation about it. We had not one conversation about how we were educating our kids. And it totally wasn't even on my radar. I was like, "Oh, we are." And I'm glad that you suggested it to me, because I don't think I could have bared the thought of my children going off to school for 8 or 9 hours a day.
Yeah.
It's funny how God brings those things to your mind. And even as a couple, you don't necessarily have those talks, but God brings those talks into progression. And then you guys start talking about it, and you realize that this is your family goal.
Yep, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys have a specific method that you use for homeschooling? Or I call myself an eclectic homeschooler. I don't necessarily have a specific method. I hodgepodge my curriculum together. But do you guys have a specific method, or do you guys eclectic, or how do you guys go about with your method?
Our method is chaos all around. It's beautiful, peaceful chaos. Yeah,
we definitely are eclectic too. We have tried multiple curriculums. We were joking about that, getting ready for this in the middle of the year, coming to them and saying, the curriculum we spent $200 on at the show last year.
When we were so excited about it, and we brought it home and said, "This curriculum is the answer to everything."
Yes.
And then she came to me one time and said, "It isn't working.
Yes.
It's just not working." And
and we never used it again. I sold it on eBay and started from scratch halfway through the year. So we are absolutely eclectic, and we have also seen the same thing doesn't work for every kid. So some of them have excelled in ACE. Some of them we pulled out and went to teaching textbooks, and then their senior year they went back to ACE. We've done unit studies. We've not done video because again we want to be with them.
We've done just a few, but nothing.
Yeah, so it's definitely eclectic and just what works for each kid and what works for our family. So not one set.
And varying not only by kid, but by subject, because we'll have one child who's doing like math on one curriculum and English on something else. And so we've varied it quite a bit, just really depending on what fits at the time. And even varying according to what is happening in life at the time. Because that's one of the great things about homeschooling is the flexibility to deal with life situations that are coming up. So there were times when we said, yeah, we're just not starting school and it's going to be October before we get to it. So then you have to adjust all the curriculum is how that's going to fit into a school year, but
Right.
be flexible.
Definitely. I enjoy the flexibility and I enjoy tailoring it to your family's needs and tailoring
Yeah.
it to each individual child. I think they learn better that way when they can learn the best way that they can learn as a student, which has been awesome. I know for us, when I was pregnant with our youngest, who's now 5, I had a little bit of a challenging pregnancy, and I told my husband, I'm an eclectic homeschool and I like hodgepodging things together. I'm like, I don't think that's going to work this year with, all the doctor's appointments that we have to go to and just preparing for a new baby. And so we had to find a curriculum that was online. Everything was online that year. It wasn't something that I really super enjoyed, but it's what fit our family for that year. And it worked well. Will we go back to it? Probably not, but it did work for us. It did work for us for that year. So that's the nice thing about curriculum is that even if it only works for 1 year or for one subject or for one child, it still works. And that's what's nice about it, is it being able to choose those options for your kids.
Yes.
So it's been really
that would go back to a foundational principle that maybe not all of our homeschooling families will agree with that, but it's that the academic side of things really is low on the totem pole of priority and importance. They need it to function in our society and to represent Christ well and whatever their calling is going to be, but character and faith development are definitely the most important parts of what we're trying to do, and that doesn't get done in a curriculum. That just gets done by spending time with mom and dad and studying the scriptures and worshiping together in church and fellowshipping with other believers.
Definitely, character building is a big part of our schooling too. Is that we know we strive to build our kids as characters in our homeschooling, and like you said, it's not necessarily book work that we're doing. It's throughout the whole day, how they respond to their sister and brother when their sister and brother has their toys, or they've made them angry, or perhaps mom is busy right now and she needs somebody to start dinner. Recognizing those things of putting others people first before your own needs too is also great opportunities in homeschooling. Definitely, I recommend with homeschooling, it's definitely a selfless thing that you do, because you're really putting yourself at the bottom. As a parent, you're serving your family, so it's definitely a selfless position that you put yourself in. So you have to pass those traits on to your kids too, and show your kids how to be selfless, because that can be challenging for kids.
Yes,
that's challenging for most of us adults.
Yes. And speaking of challenges, that brings me to our last question here. How do you guys respond when you face a challenge in your family or in your homeschooling?
I told Kim earlier when we looked at this question, I curl up in a ball and cry.
Maybe ask what's your second or third response.
That'll work better. She and I talk all the time about struggles that are going on. It's something we learned. Well, it wasn't early in our marriage, which caused a lot of troubles for a little while, but that's a whole other story. But we have this old broken down rusty swing that we bought years and years ago, and we set it on the front porch. This was back when we couldn't go on date nights because I was pastoring far away from any family that could help us. And so we would put the kids in front of a movie, and I would drive down to the Dairy Queen and just get one flurry, because that's all we could afford at the time, and we would sit there and share a flurry and just hash out whatever was going on, and whether it was relational stuff with us or homeschool stuff or ministry stuff or just general life stuff, and so the Lord's really given us that husband and wife are supposed to function as one flesh. And that's only going to happen by a whole lot of talking together, praying together, searching the scriptures together. And so when challenges come up specifically relating to homeschool, then sometimes it's, okay, let's go for a walk. And we'll go for a walk around our yard here and just do 10 or 20 laps until we can come to some kind of resolution to whatever the problem is.
You think we'd be skinnier?
Well, that's great. And I want to thank you guys for taking the time to sit down and talk with us and helping us to get to know your family a little bit. I've enjoyed sitting down and getting to know you guys a little bit. I know that our homeschoolers who are going to be watching this video and our newsletter are going to enjoy the time too. So definitely thank you. Appreciate you guys for sitting down with us tonight and opening up your family life to us a little bit, making yourself a tiny bit vulnerable.
We appreciate you having us on. We're excited to be a part of Hatch. We have only been, made it to the convention for the first time and fell in love with Patch from day one and want to be as much a part of it as we can. And so thanks for opening this opportunity up.
Well, we definitely appreciate you guys. So thank you for joining us. And as a recap, if anybody else would like to be a family spotlight, you can do that by emailing us, or you can connect with us via Facebook Messenger. And we would love to have you guys on too for our monthly family spotlights, getting to know you guys and bringing community into our homeschooling community. Thank you very much and have a good night.